Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Olson from the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I've been working with Julia for almost 100 episodes now, and she has really helped me grow my podcast from basically just my parents, my husband and kids, and my sister as listeners to over 17,000 downloads. I mean, the amount that she expanded my audience went way beyond my expectations. She really blew my mind. I have quadrupled the number of downloads over the past 12 months. Julia has been so much more than just my podcast teacher. She has been like a partner to me, really taking an interest in my program and helping me more than I ever could have asked for. I highly recommend Julia.
How amazing is that? I am so grateful that Dr. Lisa shared her experience. And if her story resonated with you and you're thinking, wait, I want results like that too, that is exactly what we're doing inside the Podcast Growth Collective. It's the place for online business owners who want to turn podcasting into a powerful growth tool without the burnout and without guessing what to fix. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally start seeing results from your podcast, I would love to support you. Head to thepodcastteacher.com/collective to learn more and to join us. And now let's jump into today's episode. Hey, and welcome back. This is your podcast teacher, Julia Levine, and you're listening to Podcasting for Solopreneurs, the show that helps online business owners grow their podcasts to get more listeners, leads, and sales. If you started your podcast with big goals, but lately you're feeling stuck with the same number of downloads week after week, you are not alone. Today, we're talking about one of the most common desires that I hear from podcasters. How do I grow my audience and get more downloads? Now, I want to start by saying that downloads are not the only metric that matters, but they do play a big role in looking at your podcast's overall performance, especially if you're using your podcast as a tool to bring leads into your business. Because the thing is that the average conversion rate from podcast listener to client is around 1%. So if you're hoping to get, say, 10 new clients from your podcast, you don't need 10 new listeners or even 100 new listeners. You need 1,000. And so that is why download growth really matters. It's not just about vanity metrics or chasing big numbers. It's about giving yourself more opportunities to connect, nurture, and convert your listeners. So today I'm walking you through 3 podcasting strategies that can help you double your downloads, plus a bonus strategy at the end that is totally optional but super effective when the time is right. Let's dive in with the first strategy. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I am a big fan of podcast SEO, and that's because it works. Your ideal listener is already searching for the content that you're creating. The problem is if your podcast is not optimized for search, they are not finding it. Inside the Podcast Growth Collective, we spend time identifying the best keywords for your show and placing them strategically within your podcast. Because the truth is that even the best content is not going to grow your show very well if no one is discovering it. Podcast SEO is one of the most overlooked ways to attract new listeners organically, and it's a strategy that continues to work long after the episode is published. You've heard me say it before. And I'm going to say it again. I am all about working smarter, not harder. And in my opinion, SEO is an incredibly smart strategy. To give you just an idea of how powerful SEO can be, my student Nadia, her podcast grew by 221% in just 1 month when we dialed in her SEO. 221%. No other changes or strategies, just SEO. There's a reason it's the number one strategy on my list. Moving into strategy number 2, this is a 72-hour burst of marketing. Most podcasters publish a new episode, maybe make an announcement post about it on social, and then they move on, probably to work on the next episode. Marketing is not my favorite task, and I have been guilty of this myself, so no shame if this is you too. While it's not nearly as finicky as the social media algorithm, there is an algorithm in the podcast player, and it is happiest when your episode gets a lot of listens within the first 72 hours. So if you can drive traffic to your episode during that window through email, social media, LinkedIn, repurposed clips, etc., you are then signaling to the algorithm that your episode is worth showing to even more listeners, placing it higher in the search results and potentially placing it in the "you might also like" suggestions for a new listener. I recommend striving for a burst of 5 marketing assets within your episode's first 72 hours in an effort to drive traffic to it from other places. However, if you are doing little to no marketing right now, that might seem a little overwhelming. So start by using your favorite place to connect with people, whether that's social media, on your email list, or somewhere else. Once you have incorporated that one into your weekly routine, then you can add another and another until you reach that 5. It doesn't have to happen overnight. And that brings us to strategy number 3, which is guesting on other people's podcasts. One of the most powerful and underutilized growth tools available to podcasters is to be a guest on other people's shows. This works so well because it's targeting people who are already podcast listeners. You're not asking them to switch platforms, to go from social media into their podcast player. You're not asking them to consume content in a different way. You are capitalizing on people who already enjoy consuming content via a podcast. Guesting, of course, also leverages another person's audience, a different group of people who may not know who you are, or at least not know you very well. And if a podcast host is bringing you onto their show, it's essentially an endorsement. So if the listener already knows, likes, and trusts that podcast host, they are likely then to give you a chance because the host is putting you in the spotlight. It is important to point out here that you don't need to try to be a guest on the biggest and most popular podcasts for this to work. Go for a quality audience over quantity. You want to connect with a host whose show complements yours in terms of topic, style, and values. You are much more likely to get audience members coming over to your show by guesting on a show with a small but aligned audience rather than a huge show with an audience that's not so aligned. All right, so those are the 3 main podcasting growth strategies to double your downloads. SEO, so that people can actually find your content. a 72-hour marketing push to drive traffic within the algorithm's prime window, and appearing as a guest on other podcasts so that you show up in front of an aligned audience who already loves podcasts. I do have a final strategy for you today, and I am presenting this one to you as a bonus because you need to have a budget for this, and I realize that not everyone is in a place for that. This bonus strategy is using paid ads. And when the timing is right for you, this strategy can work really, really well. It is a bit more advanced because in addition to having a budget available, you also need to have your content and positioning dialed in first. If your titles are not clear or your episodes are not retaining listeners, paid traffic is not going to solve that problem. So ads are not a magic fix, but if your show is already working and you just want to multiply your results, paid ads can really move the needle for you. There are a lot of different platforms where you can run ads, and I have found some of them to be more lucrative than others. If you want help implementing paid ads or any of these other strategies inside of a supportive space with coaching, community, and a library of high-impact resources, come join us in the Podcast Growth Collective. This is where you will get the clarity, structure, and strategy to grow your show without guessing, burning out, or doing it all on your own. Head to thepodcastteacher.com/collective to learn more. I would love to support you there. Until next time, happy podcasting.